Back now, adulting is tough. Parenting is even tougher, and it comes with no user manual. Well, maybe now there is. Psychologist and author of the Top Drawer Consulting, Paul Bushell, has released a new book, #Raisingmindfulkids, helps both adults and children develop mindfulness and connect. It features over 80 activities to grow mindfulness and self-regulate. Let's discuss this now with Paul, who's here with me in studio. Paul, such a nice book. You know, when one of my managers, John Bailey, handed this book to me, I had actually said that I won't give it back to him, but he wants it back. I guess because he has children, he can have it. Tell me a little bit more about how this can assist a relationship between a child and a parent.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Maseko. It's a pleasure to be here. When I wrote my first book, #Raising Kids to Thrive in a Constantly Changing World 4 years ago, it was very clear to me that, if we only have 18 summers to raise our children to go out into a constantly changing world, which we have no idea how it's going to look like, emotional intelligence is so important. And the last 2 years, I think, have been, with the COVID-19 pandemic, have been a really tragic and hard example of how a constantly changing world is sometimes going to look and feel like. And for many of us, when we reflect on that time, it's clear that our emotional intelligence is what has allowed us to push through, our ability to deal with big feelings, to empathize with other people's big feelings, to be kind, to have resilience. And so, my second book, #Raisingmindfulkids, is an add-on to that, where we try to give adults and kids tools to grow their emotional intelligence so that they can thrive through whatever the world decides to throw at them.
And I noticed that in the book it has activities for both the child and the parent. I think what's important is the discussion around how parents usually are like, I'm the parent, you listen to me. But I'm assuming this book will be able to help the parent also adjust and understand that their children also have their own personalities.
Sure. I think emotional intelligence is learned through everyday life experiences, and I like to create little activities in the book, little moments to get parents and their children connecting with one another and practicing these tools together. And the more that we practice them, the more likely we are to be able to use them in the hard moments of our life when we really need them.
Let's talk about the meditation part of things. I mean, I cannot imagine a 2 or 3-year-old meditating with a parent. Can parents even try that?
Well, I think what's so wonderful about mindfulness is it can be any simple moment, any simple activity when we connect with the here and now. And that means they don't have to be big or long or complicated, and my advice to parents certainly is manage your expectations around how children can do mindfulness. So we've got to let go of these images of, kind of sitting with our legs crossed and levitating for 30 minutes. That's very unlikely to happen in childhood. But when we start just creating small moments, even if it's 30 seconds in your day where you get your child to close their eyes and connect with the here and now and be still, we're laying the foundations for them to get better and better at that and use it more and more in their life. Like I said earlier, especially in the moments, the tough moments when they really need it.
I'm interested to know, for instance, Paul, there are some parents who have childhood traumas and they exude that when they try, to play their role as parents to their children. Is this book, for instance, going to help with that? Maybe help them tap into their childhood and deal with those childhood traumas?
Sure. Well, I think raising kids and parenting often is more about adults and parents than it is about kids, because as the adults in the room, we bring a lot of our own stuff into that relationship, and that plays out. And so for me, and we certainly talk about it in the book, mindfulness is a great way for adults to also reflect on their own thoughts and their own feelings and their own behaviors and habits that they bring into the parenting journey. And when we start to mindfully and consciously reflect on some of that stuff in a non-judgmental, accepting, open kind of way, we can kind of be like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing that. And sometimes, I was joking with a group of parents yesterday, we catch ourselves realizing I'm doing all those things that I said I'd never do. But when we mindfully reflect on it, we notice it, and then we have the ability to choose another way of showing up or asking for help. or trying different ways of being on the parenting journey.
You know, what I also liked about the book is that, you know, although it's sad, of course, for some parents to be single parents, but the fact that it doesn't force you to have a mother and a father speaking to the child. If you're a single parent, you can still do these exercises with them. And I think it might even help the single parents if, for instance, it's a, you know, daddy was a Rolling Stone type of situation.
Sure. Well, we know that parenting is a journey taken on by all sorts of people in different ways. And I really love the idea that the over 80 activities and tools in the book can be used by many different kinds of adults in children's life, whether that be their teachers or their grandparents, aunts, uncles. I'm busy staying with my goddaughter at the moment. And yeah, I love sharing stuff with her out of the book also. So it's not a book just for mom and dad. It's a book for adults to do with the special children in their life.
All right, Paul, so just tell the viewers for me, what are some of the activities that you have in here for them to do with their children?
Yeah, I think it's important, and I want to emphasize the point that mindfulness doesn't have to be this big, scary, complicated thing. It's finding everyday moments, small moments, where you and your children can slow down together and connect with the here and now as a way of giving your brain and body the chance to relax, but also a way of connecting with one another and connecting with yourself and reflecting. So in the book, we try to do some everyday things. So one of the activities that I love the most, we call it red robot breathing. So as a family, when you're driving in the car, and every time you get to a robot, everyone in the car takes a few deep breaths. And it's a very simple, easy to do activity that hopefully becomes a habit in your family, but it doesn't have to be long or complicated. For the more active or busy child, we've also put in the book some really fun nature walks and nature scavenger hunts, where what you're doing in that moment, you're still moving around, you're still busy, okay, which is great for young, busy kids, but you're connecting with the here and now and using your senses to do that. What can I touch? What can I smell? What can I taste? What can I see? So, yeah, it's jam-packed with lots of fun activities that are not hard or complicated.
What I also like is that, you know, it has the potential of making sure that once the kid becomes an adult, you know, they have those tools to cope. Because, like I said in the introduction, adulting is tough.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in a constantly changing world. And so we have to start from as young as possible, laying some of these emotional intelligence foundations. And on the journey of childhood, you experiment and you try and you learn as you go along. And we hope that by the time you arrive in your adulthood, you've got some of that stuff down. That's not to say, though, and I always say I write books for adults, not for kids. It's not to say, though, as adults, we're still not very much on our own journey of growing our emotional intelligence. And I think that sometimes the gift of parenting is that we get to stretch and grow ourselves by going on that journey with our kids.
So I'm assuming because you released the sequel to your first book, it means that, you know, there are parents who are appreciative of your work. Have you gotten any feedback to say this has helped my relationship with my child, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I was chatting with a parent this week, and she said, my 10-year-old child came into the room and I was having a really bad day. And he looked at me and he said, just breathe. And she said it was just such an obnoxious but wonderful moment of her child who had obviously learned that skill through some of the interactions that they had been practicing and was able to recognize that in this moment that would be a really useful thing to do. So it's something as simple as that, but when it's there and you really need it, it's there for the taking.
So definitely it'll help you and the child, but it'll also help you in terms of your child actually putting you in check as a parent.
Absolutely,
and
they're going to do a lot.
lovely moments like that.
And that's wonderful, because I think we've got to let go of this idea that there's such a thing as perfect parenting, or that as a parent I always have to be perfect. Sometimes I do amazing work with Jane Lynley Thomas on the Kindness Can movement. And when we talk to parents, we often speak about the fact that sometimes those moments when you make a mistake or you get it wrong, those are great opportunities for you to do two important things. One, let your child know that sometimes life is hard and we don't all have it down all the time. But second of all, here are some things that you can do to try help you in those kinds of moments. So when you're messing it up and you're getting it wrong, don't let that guilt set in and you start believing that it's the end of the world or I'm the worst parent. turn those moments into moments of growth and learning for all of you.
Actually, you're right, Paul. You know, before I let you go, what you just said now is quite important in the fact that I think also, in my opinion, or what I've seen around parents, is that when a parent is wrong, apologize to your child as well, so that they grow up knowing that if I'm wrong, I say I'm sorry, and then, you know, try to, you know, sort things out with the person that I've wronged. Because I grew up around a family where the adult was the adult. Even if they were wrong, you knew that you were not going to get a sorry. Maybe the most you'll get is them cooking you a nice meal, and that's their way of saying they're sorry, you know, through actions. But as a child, you're not understanding that yet.
Sure. So exactly that. Through your mistake or through the hard moment, we are imparting a really valuable lesson to our child. And kids learn from what they see. That's sometimes the hard reality for adults in the room. The things that we're doing and saying our kids are watching all the time, and they're likely to copy that. So when they watch us saying sorry, or they watch us breathing when we're under pressure, or they watch us taking a break because we're feeling overwhelmed, they internalize that, and they're going to play that out themselves. So it's important to be conscious of that, that role that you play. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a role that can make the world a better place, I assume.
Absolutely.
Psychologist and author Paul Bushell. This is the book that we were basically talking about with Paul. It's called Raising Mindful Kids, and it might help you not only make sure that your relationship with your child is better, but maybe also make sure that you as a parent, you know, are checked sometimes by your kids to breathe, as he said.